This episode is brought to you by Generate Solutions, your go-to AI experts specializing in empowering commercial real estate companies and environmental consulting firms. As AI is quickly transforming industries and enhancing efficiency, it is important you don't let your business fall behind. At Generate Solutions, we streamline workflows and automate tasks by creating custom AI agents tailored specifically to your business needs. Interested in taking your operations to the next level with AI? Email mfiorante@generatesolutions.com or find us directly on LinkedIn by clicking the link in the bio. On to our episode.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Today it brings me a great pleasure to bring in John O'Leary, who is the founder of Rising Above Lifestyle organization designed to help people and companies life inspired. John speaks about over to 50,000 people a year in events, sharing his insights, inspiring messages, emotional storytelling, and with unexpected humor, and of course, just countless things here. John, of course, is the author of two books, one that I have purchased, which came out a while back. But you talk about a book that really everyone should read. And I use the word everyone highlighted in yellow. It's On Fire by John. And the other book that came out, I think, in 2020 is called In Awe. John, good afternoon. And what's going on with you, young man? You don't seem like you're busy at all.
No, I was twirling my fingers and painting my toenails. But no, man, I listened to that introduction and it sounds like John O'Leary is accomplished. And the reality is, and I'm being serious, anything that has been accomplished in our work and life is the result of grace and a whole lot of other people working with and for us. So I'm grateful for what you just said in the intro, but I know me. I know my weaknesses and mistakes and brokenness, and I am humbled to be on your show and grateful to have an opportunity of sharing a little bit more about life.
Thank you. John, I got to ask you, I'm going to start off this way because Chicago born and raised, I've dealt with the north side of town and I've dealt with the south side of town. I'm really, truly a St. Louis Cardinals fan.
Well, man, I have family in Chicago, but I live in St. Louis. So born into it, married into it, and now I'm stuck with it. So I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan
Okay.
who loves to sneak out of St. Louis in the summertime, escape the humidity and the high temperatures, go up north about 5 hours, park my car somewhere illegally near Wrigley Field, and go into a
Okay.
Cardinals Cubs game. So, man, I think there's a few sacred places to watch baseball.
Yeah.
Fenway is one of them, and without a doubt, Wrigley Field is a special
Yeah.
place.
And you talk about, I mean, a I compare it to the Bears, Packers, the St. Louis Cardinals weekends. If you're in St. Louis or at Wrigley Field, there's nothing like no other. Matter of fact, I was just watching an old YouTube of Tony La Russa and Dusty Baker, and it was amazing. Yeah, just amazing. To start this off, I have to ask you, I mean, growing up, little boy, were you into sports? Were you before this all happens to you? When I watched the movie, of course, read the book, listening to the Cardinal game and everything else. Was sports a passion for you, or was there something else going on just before this all happened?
Yeah. So I'm no longer athletic, so I can brag on who I once was. I used to be very athletic as a kid. I played shortstop on the team and hit cleanup and everything else that you might hope as a little boy growing up. So I love baseball. I love soccer. I love football. My big dream, John, was to be involved with baseball, though.
Wow.
And the vision was, I had these guys on the north side like Ryan Sandberg that I hated and all these great players from the 80s, Dawson. But man, I wanted to be a Cardinal player. I wanted to be like Ozzie Smith. I thought one day if I could just keep putting in the work that might become a reality. And my life, as you know, took a very different turn.
Sure. And I brought that up because I think there was a part in the movie, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, where I think I don't know if it was with Dad, where you said, I'm going to be the next shortstop behind the great Ozzie Smith, because here in Chicago, I thought I was going to be the next goaltender, after hockey goaltender after the great Tony Esposito. So,
Esposito's a stud too, man.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Blackhawks have always had great teams, and I love the Blues as well. There's something about sports, though. It invites you to imagine more in your own
sure.
life. Life's
Oh,
not about sports, but there's certainly something about buying into that drive and that hope for something bigger than what you're dealing with right now.
yeah, you're right. The drive and the hope, and I think it really does put you on the straight and narrow
Right.
of, for things to come. Um, of course, your accident happens in 1987. And again, I learned so much about this here in the last month or so, and inspiring enough that I want you to know that I was watching this movie and I turned to my wife right after the movie and I says, I'm going to reach out to John O'Leary. And my wife goes, you're dreaming. He'll never come on a show, a small show podcast. Who do you think you are, Dan Rather on 60 Minutes? But that in the movie itself and you itself inspired me to say, I'm going to do this.
I appreciate that. I mean, so I am grateful for the opportunity of making a new friend. And I think I learned the ability, like I'm not a big numbers guy. Dan Rather may have a bigger audience than you. I don't know. I candidly, I don't care. I think the opportunity that Jack Buck taught me. So Jack Buck is the radio announcer for the Cardinals back forever, 50 years.
Sure.
But he was the one who helped save and change my life. And Jack Buck was not reaching down to a child who may one day to become an author or a guy in a movie. Jack was reaching down to a child to serve one person.
Right.
And in doing so, impacted millions of lives and did that at scale everywhere he went. And so I learned from guys like Jack and other great leaders, man, don't look at people's bios. Don't look at their social reach. When someone reaches out, try to say yes. Well, like, why would you not try to say yes? And so I'm honored you reached out. I'm grateful we could pull this off.
Yeah. If we could talk a little bit about Mr. Buck, of course, right from the onset of what had happened. I mean, he's at a banquet. I don't know if that was the Hall of Fame banquet that night. I don't know what he was at that banquet. And of course, he comes to the hospital that next day and to come and see you. Um, did you, as the John O'Leary, the young boy, the 9-year-old, this accident, of course, why has this happened to me thing and we say that in everything. Were you Did you really think, wow, did Jack Buck come in here just for 5 minutes to make this a media stunt, or did you feel the love of the
Mm.
Jack Buck?
Yeah, the cool thing about kids, and then we'll back. Let me answer your question after I share a little bit of what led
Sure,
Jack to be in the room.
sure.
So you're interviewing a guy right now who at age 9 was burned in a house fire on 100% of his body. Should have died. I find myself that first Saturday evening on my back in a hospital bed, tied down. I'm on a trach, which means I can't talk. My eyes are swollen shut, so I can't see. But I could dream, I could pray, I could hope, and I could hear. And any kid would recognize the voice of their radio announcer. So in Chicago, it might be Harry Carey. Well, in St. Louis, it was Jack Buck. And so Jack walks into this room. I hear his footsteps. I don't know whose steps they are. I hear the chair come across the floor. And then in through the darkness and agony, I hear the voice of my friend who I'd never met, Jack Buck, say, "Kid, wake up, wake up. You are going to live. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark will make it all worthwhile." And you asked the question, did you think it was a media stunt? the cool thing about kids is they're not cynical enough to even like have that thought.
Right.
Like that's the kind of stuff we think of when we're in our teens and afterwards. But as a child, it's so pure. I heard the voice of my hero bring light through the darkness and encouragement through the despair, and it changed me.
Right.
A lot of folks ask, like, who's the most important person in your recovery? Like, I don't have a clue. My mom and dad are critical, and the doctors and nurses, and the prayers, and my siblings. But for sure, Jack Buck, this visitor, this stranger, is a huge reason why this little hopeless situation became this phenomenal, miraculous story.
Right. Right. You know, of course, it touches a chord in this legendary announcer. And matter of fact, I want you to know that because I've done journalism my whole life, I mean, Buck and of course Harry Carey at one time were partners there in St. Louis for many
It's
years.
true.
Before Harry they came to Chicago, went to Oakland and came to Chicago. But that alone, I mean, you, and correct me here again if I'm wrong, you have inspired a Jack Buck. You've inspired a Jack Buck to come there to see you, to see what kind of a man is this young man, John O'Leary, is. And it just was fascinating. I mean, I think the actor in the movie who plays Roy Whiteborn,
Yeah,
I think the actor is Devon Franklin.
this is exactly
He,
right.
he says, you can watch this movie if you're 90. You can watch this movie if you're 10. You don't have to cover your eyes. You don't have to cover your ears because everybody, like you said, it was a collection of people that
Yeah,
was so inspiring. While you were there for John, was it a 5 month recovery?
it is. Yeah. And that's a long time, obviously. In addition to that, though, it's months and months and years of still bandage changes and surgeries and reconstructive operations. So the burn survivor's journey is so arduous. And when I speak or write, or now that we've done this film, candidly, man, like I try not to make it a survivor story. Like I never want to become the hero of my own story. Why I love these stories is I can't believe a guy like Jack Buck would be at a charity auction. It was an auction thing downtown. It was called the Missouri Sports Writers Gathering. They were there to raise money for youth sports. And at his table, someone had whispered that a little boy was going to die tonight in St. Louis. He got burned bad today. So Jack wasn't coming out there to meet me or to bury me. He came out to a stranger's bedside because he thought maybe his voice might provide a little bit of hope. And, and then as he leaves the room, it's portrayed, I think, beautifully in the movie. He leans his head against the wall. He begins to kind of cry a little bit. A nurse comes over, comforts him, explains that the kid is going to die. And Jack Buck takes home this prognosis. And rather than just saying, well, that's too bad, at least I went by once, he comes the following day and does it again. Wakes me up and says, kid, wake up. You are going to live. Keep fighting. John O'Leary Day at the ballpark, and does this day after day, week after week, month after month. So Jack Buck is one of dozens of heroes in this film, and one of dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of heroes in my life. So when you read on that beautiful introduction a moment ago, I'm just humbled, man, because I know how little I've done and how much I've received.
It's just incredible. I mean, and for a 9-year-old, and of course, to see this man come every day, besides your parents, besides other family members, sisters, siblings, everything, the nurses, the doctors, uh, did you, did John O'Leary say, wow, you know what? I got this. I'm going to prove to them that I can fight through this yet. You had this confidence and determination, even from a Roy Whiteborn, the nurse that says, you're going to walk again. I'm bigger and I'm meaner than you, but you're going to walk again. Uh,
Yeah.
how was it for you as that young boy to relive all this?
Yeah, so Roy is one of my favorite characters in the film and in life.
My
So well, it's interesting to know and note that these people who are in the movie portrayed real people in our lives, and that Hollywood does a phenomenal job saying based on a real story, and they never are. This thing's not based; it is a real story. In fact, it begins with the words, I think it says, "a true story," because what you're watching is the scenes of the fire were shot at my mom and dad's house. The scenes in the front yard of that home, that's where my mom and dad live. The scene where John and his dad are having a conversation on the screen and porch later on in his life when I'm a man now, but I'm still struggling. They filmed that at my mom and dad's house on the screen and porch. When John and Beth have their dance, that's where we met in college, St. Lucie University. When they get married, that church, it's called the Shrine of St. Joseph. It's downtown. That's where John and Beth were married. I tell you all that because for those who check out the film later on, they're watching not just great actors portray great people, but they're watching great actors portray great people in the places where it actually happened. So it's a remarkable, remarkable story. Then you ask the question, John, did you believe? Did you think you could do it? And when that happened was before Roy, the nurse, stepped into my life. It was when my mother stepped in. It's one of the moments in the emergency room. They're ushering me away to go off to my first surgery. My mom runs after this cart. She tracks it down, stops it from rolling. They're like, man, we got to get him to surgery. But she's like, no. So she spends a moment talking with me. And I said, Mom, am I going to die? Am I going to die? And she says, do you want to? Your choice, not mine. And I looked up at her and I said, Mom, I don't want to die. I want to live. So she said, good. Then you got to take the hand of God. You walk the journey with him and you fight like you never fought before. And John, it was that moment on that first day, and really the first moment in hospital when the belief set in. I'd never heard of surgery or bandage changes or amputations, but the 9-year-old boy knew how to faithfully shut his eyes, take the hand of God, and fight. And that's what I did that day. It's what I did for months afterwards. It's what I strive to do even today. Like just have a little bit of faith and keep moving forward.
You know, in doing the research on this, and we go back to Roy Whiteborn here for a second, the nurse, the real live actor, says that John O'Leary knew that, yes, the pain of changing those bandages every day was going to be painful, but the pain of not walking would be worse. So,
Mm,
that it just really hits you.
good line.
How you talk about that's inspiring in itself because who could at 9 to 10-year-old to think and forge ahead to think that way. I have to ask you, how was that early time? Once after getting out of the hospital and the burn unit and what you had to go through every day, how were those early, the remaining years, let's say, of grammar school to high
Yeah.
school, living this way? I mean, there was always a new kind of a learning process for you, correct?
Yeah, for sure, man. So with burn care, third degree burns mean that skin will never return to what it once was. So you'll never have that nice little pink skin or dark skin ever again. It's always going to be different. And for me,
Sure.
it's scars from my neck to my toes. For me, it also meant amputations of all fingers on both hands. For me, it meant about a year in a wheelchair before I could stand up and slowly walk and then slowly jog and then eventually run back into life. And there's physical challenges with all that, certainly. But the biggest challenge I think any of us face is emotional, always. It's how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your circumstances? How do you feel about your place in the world? Do you think you'll be able to make friends? Do you think you'll ever find love? Like all these things, I certainly wrestled with as a kid and sometimes still do even as an adult. But where I was blessed was to have fighting parents. And I mean that in the most beautiful way. Like my parents were just advocates for their kids in the way where they would not make things easy for us. They would actually frequently make things hard.
Sure.
You remember in the movie where she teaches the little boy how to eat again. Like
Yes.
that's a real story. And in the movie, I think it's about a 60-second scene. In real life, it was 2 hours that first night where my mother would not feed me. I could not eat. We had this big argument. That was homecoming night. She ruined the party. But by the end of the night, John, a little boy had figured out how to wedge a fork between two hands and feed himself. Later on in the movie and in my life, she teaches me how to play the piano. These are like, they're nonsensical. Why make a fingerless, morphine-based child with no hope at life learn the piano? Because she had a vision so much bigger than the darkness of the day. So, man, I just give, you asked how was it for me during those years? Like hard, but doable because I had parents casting a vision for what was possible and reminding me that I had agency to move toward it.
And I got to tell you, and I remember the two scenes vividly where, of course, when you were eating and the whole family was eating, you know, mom pretty much with that one look in her eye, I mean, I know it was of the actress, basically told the family, he's got this. Let him do his
Mhm.
thing. Just like when the piano teacher came over and you said, hey, what is she doing here? This is not going to happen. And it does happen when we see you play the piano, later in that movie. Just that again, just so inspiring that people, this is why the book, even the new book in awe and everything else is something that really someone has to watch because you had it all going on and I know you had a great support system of people, but you were driven and determined, and kept. Um,
Thank
I,
you.
I I felt fascinated by. I guess I'll do it this way. When you get to college, uh, you felt like I felt like you could do no wrong, and you were confident. How did you get the confidence after this tragic accident? How do you become triumphant? Is the word I'll use next.
Uh, Fake it to make it.
Take it.
That's a term they use in recovery frequently, but in my
Right, right.
case, I'm from a big Irish Catholic family. Having a bunch of siblings around will either break you or build you, and in my case, it built me. So I became relatively healthy emotionally relatively quickly. But the way I escaped from the pain was to ignore it. And at some point, it comes back to bite you. You see a little bit of that in the film, and I experienced that certainly in my life. But the way I had confidence was to pretend like I had confidence. It wasn't real. It's why in the movie you see John drinking as much as he does because he's masking pain. It's why in the movie you see John wearing long sleeves because he's covering up scars. It's why in the movie you see John always cracking jokes. This is after he gets burned
Sure.
because he's trying to cover up some of the difficulties that he faces individually. So the confidence was faked for a long time. And then, I hate to give all the credit to other people, but they sure deserve a lot of it. That roommate of mine named Mike, he's a combination of a couple of my friends growing up. Mike just believed in me before I believed in myself to go knock on that girl's door and go chase the dream with the construction site and all the other things that Mike encouraged. That's a true story. Then for Beth to show up and to again love this kid who did not fully love himself. First as my friend and eventually as my date and in time as my wife. So the confidence grew from first faking it and then secondly, continually stepping forward, even when you didn't really believe you were worthy,
Sure.
until thirdly, you achieve things that made you recognize, I guess I can do hard things.
Right. John, I got to ask you because all my life I had a dad who, of course, is no longer with me now, that said to me, you surround yourself around good people. He used to say to me, and good things will happen. Was it
Yeah.
hard for yourself after this? And now, let's say we're at that, moving along here in time. Um, you as that person. Could you see the genuine in a friend, or could you see the fake of a friend? Did you see it more? Because here, you're an inspired person. Just you had a keen sense of so many things that I got from the book and the movie. were you able to tell who was what? Because still to this day, at 66 years old, I wonder
Who's
myself.
to say?
Yeah, right.
You know what, man? I think love people as if they are authentic until they give you a reason not to.
Got it.
And so as a kid, I didn't have much to give and offer other than a goofy grin, maybe a Budweiser and a joke. So I didn't have a way of buying people's respect or
Sure.
adulation, that's for sure. So my friends back then were my friends.
Right.
They were my friends through the thick and thin. And one of the cool things about having a physical challenge, I mean, because with burn care, you never leave it behind fully. The scars walk forward into life with you. Is the people who don't want to be with you make it very clear. And the people who do want to be with you make it very clear. And so what a blessing
Right.
to know truly who your friends are. And I had just such loyal, awesome friends throughout my grade school, middle school, high school, and certainly college years and beyond. I'm incredibly blessed.
Still to this day, you are talking to these people who are a part of it. Like I know, of course, your family, the structure of your family, but these friends are still with you to this day.
Yeah, I mean, one of my grade school buddies, I'm delivering a presentation next week in his hometown. He's picking me up in the airport. We're going to spend the whole day together, give the talk that night, and then go out and have a wonderful dinner, just the two of us. And these guys, what I've learned, John, in my life with tragedy, is it either divides people or it unites people. It's true globally. It's true politically. It's true in our families. It's true with our friends. And in our case, this fire burnt down the O'Leary house. It darn near cost John his life, and it galvanized our little community together as one. It brought a family together as one. It reminded us what mattered, like character and faith and service and love. It burnt away the things that did not matter, like hubris and arrogance and selfishness and just cynicism. So we just, it's so odd to say about a childhood fire, but we view this thing as a gift these days.
You know, I know I'll have to word it in a different way, but if this doesn't happen, I know you're 9 years old. Let's say this doesn't happen. Um, the life goes on. We don't know how John O'Leary would have turned out. We don't know. It's that this
Right.
is why we can't. The destiny is the destiny in the life, and to handle the tragedy the way your family did, the way you did, it's just amazing. But yeah, we don't know how John O'Leary or John
Yeah, we
Conenna.
do, brother. I would have been, you would have heard me. You'd be
Let
wearing
me
my
hear what you thought.
jersey. You'd be wearing a Cardinals jersey with the name O'Leary on the back of it. It would have been great. I would have converted you. You know what? Here's what I'll say on all that. Had I not been through this, our family wouldn't have been as supportive of one another as we are. We wouldn't have loved my dad the way we did with his Parkinson's disease. I don't think we'd have six kids who all still go to church. I think we recognize the things that matter and what don't. Uh, I don't sweat the small things. I can speak about this individually now. I have a lot more joy in my life because of the struggle. Like what I would, so all of this to say, my encouragement for those of us currently going through a struggle is to keep asking the question, why me? But as you repeatedly ask this question as you progress, let it shift from asking it as a victim to being a victor, to being someone who recognizes that maybe this thing is somehow happening for you. The diagnosis, the struggle, the agony, the pain, the financial insecurity, whatever the thing is, that maybe this is something that will redeem a situation in a mighty way and draw you closer into the things that matter more in life. So I love the question, why me? You saw that echoed a little bit in the film, but it's a great question.
It is a great question. I mean, because John, and it puts it into perspective. Another thing that my parents told me was, you need to take things, John, a day at a time, they used to tell me,
Yeah.
not a year in advance. it's a day at a time, and a damn, and collectively, of course, what a bond that you had. I want to go back to something about Jack Buck, if you don't mind. Uh, uh, Hall of Famer. And for me, the Hall of Fame in anything we do, and I always say this because I've been part of a Hall of Fame here in Illinois for hockey.
All right.
I have to tell you, when you got that glass ball from him, that beautiful. I mean,
It was
water was coming out of my eyes just watching that. I mean, for him to give that to you, what goes through your mind now when I speak to you this afternoon to get this from this gentleman, of course, and for everything else that he did?
Well, that's such a great question and a loaded one. So, Jack Buck, for the listeners who somehow don't even know who we're talking about, is one of the greatest announcers of all time.
Without question.
I mean, just he's in 7 Hall of Fames. Like this is a legendary announcer, not only in baseball but in all sports. His voice is so powerful that his son became like him, and in
Yes.
doing so is now in the baseball NFL. Like so, Joe is hugely successful in no small part because of his dad. That's the ripple effect of success and significance. When I graduated university, barely got out of school, had no clue what to do with my life. Jack Buck comes to the party. And he brings that package with the baseball that he received when he went into the Hall of Fame. It is the gift of a lifetime. And he did not give it away to the author of the book On Fire or the author of the book In Awe or the subject matter of the film Soul on Fire. He gave it away to an insecure, college drunk, 22-year-old nobody. Like that's my favorite part about the story. Like we weren't we weren't on our way. I was struggling. And in the midst of that insecurity, Jack shows up with that baseball. And you never know the things you do for someone else, how it might change them later on. You never know. And so Jack gave me this. To be honest, though, when I received it, I felt so wholly unworthy of it. Like it alludes to in the film, I hid it that night in my sock drawer.
Right.
And it wasn't for protecting the baseball, it was for protecting me. Because I did not want my buddies back at home to know how that I knew Jack. No one knew. I wasn't telling them that Jack was my buddy.
Right.
Because if they knew that, they would then say, well, why? And then I'd have to talk about how I got burned. And it just was something I never ever did as a kid or as a young person. So when he gave me that ball, I was blown away. When he walked into the sunset, I decided, and now I need to hide it. And I kept that thing hidden. It doesn't show it in the movie, but the reality is, a couple years after that, he passes away.
Yes.
And
I think it was 2002, correct? Yeah, 2000,
that's
yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly right. June of 2002. And so the family called and said, John, will you go to the funeral? I'm like, of course. He is my friend. And so then I'm out of the funeral and I'm doing my little time, like 25 years old, and look in the mirror and I see Dan Deerdorf, a, fo-
No, no,
a,
the ex-football player.
right, a football player, announcer on CBS, known commodity. I'm like, whoa, Dan, that's cool. And then I see Joe Buck, and then I see Mike Shannon, and then I see the Carey family. You know them from Chicago. They're all
Sure.
walking into this funeral. Then I see the DeWitt family, billionaires. And then I'm in this cruddy, broke down truck with a cheap suit and hands that don't make the tie look good. And I wasn't there for him when he was alive, and I'm not going to pretend like I'm there for him when he's dead. So I waited for everybody to go into the church. When the last door shut, I waited a little bit longer, turned the car on, pulled out of the parking lot. That's the kind of friend I was back then. And listen, I don't get joy from sharing stories like this, but it's part of the journey toward healing.
The
I
journey.
got about halfway home, broke down, and I've lost my dad. I've lost best friends. I've been through some struggles. I've never cried the way I did that day. And it just drew me in to recognize how lousy I was, how good he is, and the call to do more with the gifts he gave. And that was a turning point. I started to recognize I've got to take this ball and my brokenness from the shadows back into the light. And through that mistake and through that lousiness as a friend, man, I just opened myself up. I got the ball out of the sock drawer. I put it up high. I started wearing short sleeves, started sharing the story slowly, and then bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's a movement. But it came on the heels of ugliness and brokenness and lousy friendships and letting people down.
Well, I got to tell you, John, thank you for sharing that because it's like every day when you saw Buck in the hospital when he would say, "Hey, kid, wake up." You
Yeah,
know, that was
that's
the
right.
way, and you got the wake up call that way. I got to ask you, and do you remember, uh, kind of remember a last conversation with Jack Buck?
Yeah. There were two actually.
Was it in person or on a phone, John?
Well, the last conversation I had with him was the graduation night.
Hmm.
And it's the night he came by the party, brings the crystal baseball, open it up in front of him. The note reads, "Kid, this means a lot to me. Hope it means a lot to you too. Enjoy, it's yours." And then it goes on to say, "This is the baseball I received when I went into the Hall of Fame. It's made of crystal. It's priceless. Don't drop it." Signed Jack Buck. So that's the note. And then I look inside and I see that, when you hold a baseball in your hands, it's remarkable when it's big, when it's leather, but when it's crystal and
Crystal.
it's exuding light and it says Baseball Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, Jack Buck, July 1987. Man, it's like I knew I wasn't worthy of that. And I said something to the effect of, Jack, I can't take this. And in typical Jack Buck fashion, he said, "You're not taking it. I'm giving it to you. It's a
Yes.
it's a gift. Try not to drop it." And then I think I said something to the effect of, "Jack, why all these things?" Because he's the one who taught me how to ride again. He gave me 60 baseballs and he visited me all the
And
time.
what a way he did it. He says, you're going to have to write that to me to get
Right.
Musicals ball. That's incredible.
It
Mind he had.
What a gift.
What a gift.
So I said something to the effect of why all these things. And in the most understated comment ever, he said, seemed like he needed it. Just, seemed like he needed it. So he gave so much. And now in life, the work we try to do is to remind people less of how great Jack Buck was and more of how great they can be by doing ordinary gifts of love for others. You don't need to give away crystal baseball. You
No,
don't need to send 60 signed baseballs to a little kid who got burned. You don't need to visit him every day for 5.5 months. But the little things you do for one another, it's never returned hollow. We can create a mighty ripple effect through our lives.
John, I don't know if you were familiar, and I'm sure you were. His 9/11 poem was for me, incredible. During that time when we were what we were facing in the country and everything else, just incredible. And I think it's one of the best poems ever that people should try to YouTube or watch it. And I'm sure you remember that very well. I have to tell you that what I'd like to tie in here and kind of like I want to tell our audience here as we're getting close to the end of this first interview here with John O'Leary. We are visiting with John O'Leary today, and of course, the book is On Fire that I had purchased, and the movie Soul on Fire that came out in October. Please, if you can purchase the book and his new book, In Awe, and of course, the movie Soul on Fire that hit the Netflix audiences in October. I have to tie in something that I don't think maybe you never tied in. So I love Buck as an announcer. I did, even though I was more of the Chicago guy. But I will never forget something. And I think he had to have seen this twice. He said this twice, but maybe no one heard him say it the first time. But I heard him say it the second time. But I think he did say it the first time. In 1988, in game one of the World Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Oakland Athletics, a Kirk Gibson came out of a dugout He could not walk. He barely could walk. He had a pulled hamstring, had to face the great Dennis Eckersley. The Dodgers were down by 1 run, and Buck was the national announcer for that game on a Saturday night in 1988 of October. Gibson, with one leg and one swing of a bat, puts the Los Angeles Dodgers to win that game and that series.
Against the greatest reliever of all time.
Exactly.
Dennis
Against,
Eckersley is not a schmuck up there. He is
no,
the
no.
greatest reliever down to 2 strikes. The at bat's over.
The at bat's over. He had fouled off a pitch. He looked like me fouling off the pitch. He just basically grazed it. But I think Buck said this before, and it's in regards to you. This is 1988. Of course, your accident is in 1987. He says, as Kirk Gibson rounds the bases, I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw. And I have to tell you here today, John O'Leary, I know he didn't believe what he just saw, but he saw John O'Leary persevere and go ahead. I know, and I wasn't there. I know in his heart. He believed in you, and he said it once for you and one for Gibson. This is great, and I want to leave you with this, and you can say what you want. And this is what and it's again, Jack Buck.
Can I just jump in on that Kirk Gibson call real quick? Because this is
sure. Go ahead. I love it.
I encourage your listeners to Google not only the 9/11 talk by Jack Buck, which is a remarkable poem, but then Google the Jack Buck broadcast, Kirk Gibson home run. And when Gibson, just listen to the poetry that this guy spoke with. It's incredible. He's an incredible announcer. But then as the ball clears the wall, and you see the pandemonium in the audience, and you see everybody jump up and down, then you'll hear Buck say, I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe. You'll see in the background taillights. So Dodgers fan, to beat the traffic because they're going to lose, sneaks out, gets into their car, beats the traffic, and then on the radio they hear the same call that I just gave. I don't believe what I just saw. The point is, so often in life, we're on the outside of that call, man. And I just encourage folks, like Jack Buck would have never left early. And I beg you guys, as you listen to this conversation, don't give up on the game of life. Don't give up on you. Don't give up on your loved ones. Because then at the end of it, you'll be able to look back and say, I don't believe what I just saw. I don't believe what I just saw. It will be worth it.
And of course, on the back of this book really hits me. I mean, there's so many people who wrote on the back, and there's Brent Brown, Sean Covey, Rachel Macy Stafford. But Buck says what you said. We may not be able to choose the path we walk in life, but we can always choose the manner in which we walk it. John O'Leary, I've never done this on my podcast, but I got to tell you, I want you to know that this clapping today is from 50,000 people. I wish I could make it sound like 50,000 were in this studio with me. I hope you like the tie-in that I did with Gibson, but this was the honor of honors today. And John, I truly want to thank you for coming on a conversation with John Conenna.
Honor, brother. Thank you for the research and the care that you provided on the interview. I appreciate you.
And I got to ask you a favor. You think we could do a part 2 when we talk about Awe one day, the book Awe?
You get the book, you read it down. If you think it's worthy, you call me back.
You got it. I will. This will go out on YouTube and Spotify in the coming days. We've visited with John O'Leary, an inspiring man without a doubt. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Cheers, man.
You got it.
Thank you, Jono.
Thank you. Take care.
God bless you. Talk to you soon, buddy.